privilege to be here to speak to you all. Thank you, Suresh. It's always a pleasure having seen you on the tennis court with your two kids that I was active in tennis, and your team for inviting me. We have been members of the club right from its inception and really treasure the amount of time and we have spent here, and both our daughters also enjoyed it. Both my daughters got married here also, in the colonial hall and the lawn there. So thank you very much for getting us here. I thought I'll just share a few thoughts of my very satisfying journey when I joined a very small company called LIT, and really traveled through it along with many others to make it or be a part of it when it became a very large, internationally known, iconic company. Born in Bangalore, did my entire schooling in Hyderabad, and joined IIT Delhi for chemical engineering straight from college at the campus when they came for interviews. Our passion those days was not management, it was engineering and design. So my passion was design and engineering, and I listened to my heart and intuition, which I've always done even after that, and joined L&T when I had a much better salary offer from Union Carbide, and also a scholarship in the University of Manchester to do my PhD. That was, of course, was to be joined in September, but I joined L&T in June. Looking back, my experience has been that finally it is your choices that construct your career and life, along with hard work. But it's your choices along with hard work that construct your career and life. The culture, even at that time in LIT, when it was very small, and where Mr. Hoklassen himself was very active at that time, what was, if these, and generally LIT recruited all toppers. Most of them were IITites, and a few others from VJTI and some of the other colleges. The concept was, given those times, that all our bosses used to tell us, and remember there were a lot of European bosses at that time, but even then, these Danish bosses used to tell us if these equipment being imported can be designed and manufactured in Europe, why can't it be done by LIT? This was the sort of spirit we had. And Hoklassen himself used to say, if not LIT, who else? So I think this was a site of way we grew up, and the nationalistic sentiment, even though it was founded by two Danish gentlemen, but in India with Indian equity, was very nationalistic. And I think these are the sort of things that finally brought us the acronym and the culture, which enabled us that we make the things that make India proud. I mean, now I'm talking late 60s when all this was being, because I'm the oldest guy in this group, so I've had among the founding members, I was really a founder in many ways. I was the first batch of IIT Delhi. Again, we set up our labs, we did, those were the 5-year course, we did surveying, we did machine shop, we did study drawing. That's why I fitted well in L&T even though I was a chemical engineer. And best joke is I had to handle these strong Punjabi boys. And those days IITs had a lot of boys from public schools, Columbus and Delhi, and this La Martiniere from Calcutta, and you name it, Sherwood and Bishop Cotton, they all came with their own, And here was the poor little guy from Hyderabad, lone guy. I'd never even eaten a tandoor roti in my life. And anyway, it was great. But thanks to my games, I assimilated very fast, because all these guys who came from public schools used to say they know everything, all the games. Till we actually had the little bit of trials, and then they knew who had the games. These poor guys who came from Hoshiarpur and Punjab High Secondary and some other schools, they were the dadas. So finally, I think it was a great melting point. I learnt a lot being the first batch, and we had all English professors. Those days, every IIT set up by a different country, and we were British. So all our professors were English, and my Dr. Rumford, with whom I was very closely associated, he called me Shorty. So, so that was my nickname right through IIT, and a lot of my old friends, they still call me Shorty, and I'm okay with that. And the best jokers in L&T, Mr. Hoklassen nicknamed me Tiny. So, so I think this is something in their gene, to have this. So I was sent abroad twice to America and also to Europe for extended training of collaborators, and was the founder member of product engineering and then R&D. That time a lot of, the L&T was in that thing of assimilating all the collaborations. In 1983, I got an opportunity to come out of R&D into the mainstream in production, where I spent my first year as a production manager. And Mr. Nayak at that time was our joint general manager, manufacturing. And the fabrication shops handled nuclear reactors and space. Those are the two. We got into space rocket motor casings way back in 1969, 68. Abdul Kalamji used to come to our shops with us. He carried the fixtures himself. And so it was a great feeling. It was part of the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program, IGMPD. And that's how we made the SLVs, we made the ASLVs, we made the PSLVs, now we're making the GSLVs. So it was a great, from an engineering point of view, it was a treasure, although all my checks used to bounce. Because my wife came from Bangalore and I couldn't show her the type of thing I stay somewhere. So I took a nice little flat in Jew scheme next to Ramanand Sagar, next to Dharmendra. I had the same Dobie and milkman as Dharmendra, but not the salary. So the the checks used to bounce, and the cash. Pardon? Hema Malini that time was. By the way, did you mention Hema Malini? When I studied in IIT Delhi, Hema Malini was studying in the Madrasi school. And she was about 3-4 years junior. But the prettiest girl in that time was not her in that school. She was a daughter of an IPS officer, and her name was her name was also Malini Krishnaswamy. So a lot of kids used to come from the Madrasi school, who are also very intelligent school, what is called South Indian Education Trust. Sorry. So anyway, that was a part of those days. So I was asked to also not only be the production manager, but also set up the new fabrication shops and offshore platform yard that we had planned in Hajira. And I was reporting to Mr. Nayak. That started a long journey of more than 33 years together as we moved together in the company. And I think the 24/7 which NDTV says started for me from 1983. And it was any time, any call, any time. So this was a big issue in L&T at that time because the project was only 40 crores. But in 1983, 40 crores was big for L&T. And nobody had conceived that we said we're going to do platforms, we're going to take it in the sea, we're going to install it. It was too much for most of the senior management on the board. But this is what we wanted to do, and Mr. Nayak was driving it. And with a lot of difficulty, we convinced the board, and that is how we got into wanting to build Hajira. Now, it was to be inundated with water, the waterfront because of the tides, but that's where you need to be able to make huge platforms and put it onto the sea and then install it 100 kilometers away in 70 meters of water depth. Do also the construction there, fabrication here. It was a different ball game, let's put it. No Indian company was doing that. But simultaneous to that, we also, the factory was going to take 3 years to build. We also had to recruit workmen from various ITIs in Gujarat. That's where I learned that Surat, nobody wants to work. They all, they had that saying that you eat in Gujarat and you die in Kashi. So, Jamanu, Gujarat, Surat mein aur, Marwanu. So that's when I really realized the real hard-working labor for Gujarat comes from Mehsana, comes from Saurashtra. Their names are like Panchal. They are not Shahs and Desais. They have to be, Panchals and different other names. So anyway, it was fascinating that while we were doing this construction, simultaneously we hired a shop in Udna, and we started the training. And that was one of the strengths we had at L&T, this apprentice training of workmen from 12th, after they pass out 12th. So the shops were quite ready in 1986, but now came the issue. Our marketing division said, "Arey yaar, you're talking of all these products, we are not comfortable to market it." So we took on the responsibility ourselves at Powai and took the challenge. We set up a small young group. Of course, in L&T standards, we were young. I was just about 40, and these guys were all 30s and 28s. And we called it Special Projects and Systems. And our mandate was bring into L&T that which we don't do today. I mean, there was a clear mandate because the marketing division wouldn't allow us to step on their toes. They said, "You built the factory, do it." I mean, these are some of the, I would say, hallmarks of Mr. Nayak also. He didn't get scared of those guys. Because that time the L&T was a different L&T. The marketing used to sit in the L&T house, and we, the Mazdurs, used to sit in Powai, the manufacturing group. So anyway, they said, "You can't do marketing anyway." Because those days the concept was, marketing people are different, special breed. You are not marketing. "Arey, aap jara aapka sab wo karo, hum order leke aayenge." Anyway, this was the style of those days. I mean, not only in L&T, I'm sure it must have been elsewhere. But this interdisciplinary strength of all of us put together, all young people, in a very short time, of course with a lot of luck, I would say, we incubated 3 major businesses for L&T. Defense, offshore oil and gas, and onshore, and power. And not only did we incubate it, we also booked orders. And some of the highlights were, for example, in defense, we entered with the ATV vessel, which was a very secret project of those days, Advanced Technological Vehicle, where we all had to sign secrecy agreements. Even our bosses beyond, who were directly involved, knew about what it is. And that was a nuclear submarine. We started with that. Now we have made 3 of them. Then the next important thing was offshore platforms. Till then, it was the license Raj in India. Koreans were doing it. Mazagon Dock and Hindustan Shipyard were supposed to do it, but they never did it on time. So we made the big platforms right on the first time. 4 of them had to finally go in one vessel, 1,400 tons in one barge. And Hajira is not the best of water depths. It's the tide, in, all of you know, Gujarat know, in Bhavnagar, Surat and all, the tide comes from 3 meters to 7 meters. So you have to choose from the tidal tables the right time, and then it's a sinusoidal curve. So you must catch it and load it, ballasting on the barge. There's a lot of calculations. You have to move this 1,000 ton on multi-axle platform trailers. I mean, I can't show you a movie, but it's fabulous. Imagine that whole thing moving. Where we call it When Mountains Move. Now, the tide was at 2:30, and being our first job, we wanted to be very, very careful. Now, first time we are doing it, so Mr. Desai, his wife, all the directors, their wives, all came. So they said, "Hey, KV, what 2:30? Please have it at 5:30 or 6, otherwise he can't come." Now, how to explain to him that it's not possible? So, so using my little senior, 2:30 in the morning, I'm saying. So using my senior Cambridge and whatever I learnt of Shakespeare, I said, "Sir, simple terms, tide and time wait for no man." Okay, they're all sporting people. They took it, all the little cursing, but when they finally saw the loadout and the scale and what it was, and at 2:30 in the morning, it was sort of, awesome. Now came, as I've said, I don't know, maybe it just happens when you work hard, but many times when you work very hard, God comes at some important points of time and helps you. The liberalization of the Indian economy in the 90s, well, India was sleeping in the 80s, and we invested 40 crores. And that 40 crores will be worth 700, 800 crores now. Gave us an opportunity to dream big. In fact, the real growth of L&T started from 92, 93 in a new way. Of course, it grew much more, as I'll tell you later. And we had a dream that we wanted to be an integrated, world-class and scale engineering and construction company. We were the Western group, and we had the pure construction group in Chennai. So that was there, we were here. So our focus was defense, hydrocarbon, and power, and heavy equipment. But we needed an accepted band and expertise to tackle the Saipams and the Bechtels and the various giants in doing this type of work. And this is where we did really some good intelligent planning. We realized that if you want to be big, you have to have good engineering. Till that time, most of the other many companies were trying to move from construction and fabrication. We said we'll move from engineering downwards, although we had some construction and we had a fair amount of fabrication. So we scouted around and then identified and made two joint ventures, one with Chiyoda of Japan for hydrocarbon and one with Sargent Lund, USA for power. For them, it was a little low-cost engineering center. For us, it was to build our own capability and have a basis for qualification. Then, once we did this, another major inflection point in our group was, as luck could have it at that time, one thing I don't know, all of you may remember, that India was one of the earliest countries in the Middle East and Far East to insist on Euro 4 standards for our diesel. So the projects came called diesel dehydrosulfurization projects, mandated by the Supreme Court, and everybody listened. That means there was severe penalties on Indian Oil and others if you don't do it. And everybody thought, therefore we must go for turnkey. Otherwise, generally, these people like to do piecemeal. They'll buy equipment separately, do construction separately. And as luck would have it, we had just about built all these infrastructure. We had to do a lot of marketing. But now people realize LIT that Mazdoors also can do marketing. So we have got recognized, and with these engineering centers, we quoted. And we got the bulk of the orders, beating the Koreans, beating the Italians, beating the Japanese. We worked on almost 15 projects at the same time. We had so much work that we had to also outsource engineering to others. And conceptually we said, Poa is the mother, but it's too expensive a place in the long term to add too much of things. Hajira is our muscle. We chose Vadodara as the brain. That's why we today have a huge knowledge city. And with this, we had the golden triangle of our ENC business for power and hydrocarbon and for heavy engineering fabrication. So this was one turning point. Then we got let us say, one more but let's say aspiration. He said, if we can do so well here and beat the Koreans and others here, why can't we go and do it in Middle East and Southeast Asia? But we didn't have track record there. We didn't have the scale. And whatever it is, as somebody told me when I first time went there, KV, we know you are good equipment suppliers, but your engineers from India, you're good engineers. You're good supporting staff. But we are not comfortable to give you a whole project to manage of a $500 to $1 billion and manage multinational. Not yet. Our top management are quite worried. So we took a next step. We nuanced our strategy where we went under these big guys and supplied them our construction and supply of equipment. Because we had all these elements. Most people didn't have it. The typical EPC players do engineering and they do some parts of, they don't really have the equipment. So this is the way we got in there. And once we got in, we were able to quote. And again, we were bold. Soon as we got in, what we talk Atmanirbhar also is there. And they also wanted what they call in-kingdom value. So we built a huge facility at Sohar in Oman, which is where the Rotterdam Port authorities with the Oman government were building a big complex of port, big factories. And what attracted them to us was that we could also build skill. And only two countries in the world where a lot of people are ready to, the government wants them to work to get skill is Saudi Arabia and Oman. It's not Qatar and Kuwait, UAE, but the numbers are very small. So they gave us the facility built as far as the quay wall, dredging and so on, because next to the port, and we built the workshops and the equipment, and that was our USP, by which we just got our fair share of business from UAE and from Aramco. Aramco are the tough people to get, but once you get, they have $45 billion they spend every 2-3 years. So, and they have long-term agreements. So once they choose 4-5 people, they don't move around. They stick to those people. So this is something that we did, but then we realized we were all young relatively to all these Bectors and all, they all had gray hair, and I used to have a tough time convincing the people, sir, you are still thinking of Rock Hudson, you are thinking of Kirk Douglas, you are thinking of all those guys, maybe Gregory Peck, but we are Tom Cruise. we are Brad Pitt, you know. We are the young lot. So we don't have that much of gray hair and experience, but we have the power, the will, the enthusiasm. And which other company you will find directors coming to project meetings? There that fellow will have a vice president title, but he will be way down in the thing. So I said, these are our USP. We come, we are close to you. And that's how we went out. But then we realized, now we have to build the foundations. And we set up our own project management institute in Vadodara. Because unfortunately in India, project management is not having a proper area in a curriculum of anything in the depth. Yes, when you go to IIM, you do some project electives, you go to NICMAR, you do something in construction. But as a total integrated project management, you don't have any such, even today we don't have. And they don't treat it as a science. Here it's treated still as some experience. So we built that. We got retired people from Bechtel and SIPEM and all to be our visiting lecturers. We had our own. We built, and as I said, as Mr. Batra said, one thing we had strength was in IT. Young people are good in that. These old rock artists were not so good in that. So we integrated our whole system, right from bidding to engineering to procurement to construction, using ERP. We were one of the earliest people to use this very unfriendly but good ERP of SAP, customized to our requirement. It took a lot of effort of ours. But anyway, the advantage is it was good for transaction part of it. And we built around it all our stuff. So that was the first thing we established, which was a stepping stone. Second thing we realized, many companies are going fat. Even the foreign companies who do large projects, many of them are shut shop. In India, as I don't want to mention names, but 2-3 who followed us also went down the side. So risk management is very, very important. Risk management, right from knowing whether you want to quote, then quote, and in each of these projects, they, if a $1 billion project, the hours to construct it in terms of pure engineering will be about 200,000 man-hours. To even bid, you have to do at least 25,000, 30,000 hours because each project is different. So it's a lot of expense. So you can't bid every project. You have to be very, very selective and decide, okay, this is what I will go for, because your success rate is never more than 20%. So basically, we became members of the Risk Management Institute in USA, which had all the leading contractors, and because of our enthusiasm, because of our presence, we also became the chairman of it for 2 years. So that was a great thing which helped us when we went to the Middle East. The third important thing is safety. Unfortunately, in India, we all know, right? All of us are very unsafe. And when you go abroad, boy, with all those goras who are in those foreign companies, even if they are Middle East, safety is the first place where they knock you off. So, and safety is also a very behavioral thing. It's not just protocols and things. So we had to get into this. So we employed DuPont safety systems. And then we established our own safety school, which we still have in Hajira, which is a showpiece, where we can do all this education and at the same time sensitize people as they come in. And that is a gate. If you don't have that good track record of millions of man-hours without incidents, forget about accidents. Even when the fellow gets cut, that will be treated as a... So we established that also. Having done that, the other important point, which we were none of us are so conversant with multinationals, how to treat them, speak them, So we had to develop soft skills. There we hit upon a good idea, which we learned from the Americans, of having what they call, right in the beginning, you have a team workshop. You get your top people, their top people for the project, 2-day workshop, off-site, get to know each other, plan that we'll do it together, make a nice photograph, put it on a table, so that they know that you and I are fighting for the same completion. And as you go along, you do it in steps. That means there are 3 or 4 workshops. It's also a way of building customer intimacy. But even after doing all this, as I said, it took a lot of effort for us to really succeed. But once we succeeded, we also succeeded in the Southeast Asia, in Thailand, Malaysia, Burma or Myanmar, parts of Africa like Tanzania. Somebody who said the Council of Tanzania. And therefore, in fast track, we built another huge complex at Kattupalli, right next to Ennore, where we also have our shipyard, where we do defense work, and we have the offshore yard. So basically, we booked a number of orders in this part of the world. So this is the one area we took bold risks. But then if you have the capability, you can take the risk. So it's very much like cricket. Right on the middle stump, Virat Kohli can click it for 4. Yes. But every top carry can't do that. So I know, finally, now coming more now to the board level, as a company at the board level, as a board level, is a transformation of a company. All of you must be having shares. You've seen how L&T, what it has done. So I was elected to the board in 1999, the same year that Mr. Nayak became our CEO and MD. And now started the turbocharged period in L&T. Literally turbocharged. I mean, I worked with many people, but he's something. And the next many years, we had a transformational period in L&T. And I think the first initiatives we took at the board and transmitted down the line, it took a lot of work, workouts with 150, 200 managers to convince them on some of the things we want to do. And at the same time, they had to again take it. So we took 2 years to sort of get a buy-in from everybody. So one of the first things we said, we'll revise our vision statement and L&T will be an Indian multinational. We'll benchmark with the best in the world. So all of us, we said, we may 8 in India, but 5 hai. Right now you're 5 in the world benchmark. So you have to realize that you go up like that, So we brought that humility in us that if you want to be there, then you have to be different. And what got us here will not get us there. Here we were the Amitabh Bachchan of India. But we have to do something there. So basically, the next one was, L&T over a period of time had become rather bureaucratic. Seniority was dominating more than merit. And so the next thing was, merit is going to be the prime objective. And to do that, it again took a lot of effort. The young people liked it, but the middle management and others, it took us some effort. And simultaneously, we said we have to be more entrepreneurial. We have to move in the entrepreneurial route. And Mr. Nayak had a very good statement. He said, KV, a very good manager can maintain value. Much better manager can incrementally increase value. But there's only an entrepreneurial, hard-working, devoted manager who can multiply value, So this is the sort of company we wanted to become. So we introduced the bell curve. Jack Welch introduced, very controversial, but we introduced it, where you identify over a period of 2-3 years who are your top performers. You also can identify who are your low performers. And with a lot of human heart, getting them placements, we started removing the people who are in the bottom 2% or so. At the same time, identifying the top 3%. And after good assessment of their work and in assessment centers, we have a beautiful management institute at Lonavala, and we have a 7-step development program. So Hayes and Mercer came in the early years to train us on assessment. And these people got big bonuses, high variable pay, and we call them the MLPs, management leadership program, they could move fast. Similarly, we had the TLPs, technological leadership program. So in this way, we didn't change the values, but we changed the culture. From L&T, from being a very steady, gentlemanly company to a very more assertive, active, agile, street smart company. I mean, this is something that was done. The other important, I think, thing that was a game changer was way back in 1999, we gave ESOPs. You know, I told you my checks used to always bounce. Till I became a joint general manager, my checks used to bounce. So we gave ESOPs, and that covered a large number of our people. And it was also helped us to retain good people. And they could also see when they add value, we can keep looking at that. None of us were all engineers, never used to look at the Sensex those days. Now they started looking at the Sensex and the L&T share. So the other very important thing was that now the L&T that you'll see 10 years from now will be a more new technology company. So we decided that we have to shed some of our legacy businesses and build our IT, technology services, and other new areas. And that is how we sold our switchgear, which was one of our top businesses. When I joined L&T was more known for switchgear. But that money we invested in Mindtree. And going forward, the verticals that will be very important, we thought, which we are in, we must grow up the scale. And that's why we decided we'll only do very large projects in our project area. That's why a bullet train, if it's civil, or it is some very large projects, if it is E&C, because finally, whether it's a small project or a big project, you need a good project manager. As another saying is, a good project manager will do a bad project in estimation reasonably well. A very average or bad project manager will make a loss even on a good project which is estimated. So I think this is something that we said we will go up the scale, and we felt that we had the right risk management system to tackle the uncertainty that you'll have on large projects. Other very interesting happened, we've been raided twice, but we have survived. And in 2003, Aditya Birla came into the company. And, but we did a very interesting thing. We were anyway going to sell the company, sell the cement plant. We were doing that when he also entered. So we did a good deal with them, whereby they took the cement, and we bought back the shares they had in L&T ourselves as employees trust. It was a very fantastic scheme that was configured by Mr. Naik. And therefore today, apart from the ESOPs and all, as the L&T trust, we own 15% of the equity. And with the money that comes through dividends, we do all the welfare for all our employees, and especially those employees who are like workmen and others who do not have the benefits some seniors have, including their education, operations, looking after their children to be sent abroad, etc. That means it's our own trust. That means we don't do it for outsiders, but we do it for all our employees. So this way, finally, as we all know, a company will never be taken over only if its market cap is high. It should be so expensive to buy that people will think that. But at least we have a little bit of a, because as somebody said, nobody owns, we all thought we emotionally owned L&T, but till we were raided, we realized we are Nanga. So that is how we built this particular part of it, and I think that has been one of the strategies. And internally, one of the last things that I would like to say, we built independent companies. See, when people work in good companies like L&T, the board can only accommodate 5 or 6. But you have maybe 25 people who aspire for that. So we built vertical companies wherever you are sustainable. And in those companies, independent companies, they work like as though they are separate. They even had independent directors almost the same level as what you have in the main board. That way they were groomed to have P&L, to have board meetings, to have more autonomous. And that's how these independent companies came into L&T. That also spearheaded the growth. It also provided a leadership pipeline for us. So I think, by and large, this covers the whole thing. I'll just have to, others have given many jokes, so I'll give a joke on myself and on our company. First of all, let me thank my wife, Jyoti. She has hardly seen me in my operation days. And, she brought up our 2 daughters, and they are accomplished ladies who are doing well after marriage and grandchildren now. But now she sees too much of me. I still remember in my farewell, my elder daughter said, "Mommy, do you know what it is now with daddy at home all the time?" So that is that part. But then let me end with a small light joke. You know, our L&T Poa is in the forest. We have all the national parks, and way back in 1988, 89, there was no Hiranani. We were only there. NITI was there, IIT was there, and the ashram of Chinmay. That's all. And we all used to work very late. And those were the days before the computers, So every tender had from 15 pages, his ONGC, this, that, and it was a nightmare. Only Xerox machine was there. So once so we used to work late because we used to finalize the price only at the last moment. It's something like a share price. Because if you do it too early and it leaks out, and all the effort of putting 4 months is gone. So once we went, had tea outside. Those days, at 6:30 the canteen will not be there. And we came back. And that time, a lot of monkeys used to sit inside L&T. Now they must be there, but those times, plenty. That whole area, and this workmen used to give it bananas, this, that. It's been the second shift, when it's very quiet, they're all there. But we had in our group, one guy, like he talked of Rwanda and gorillas, there was one guy who had some great animal sensitivity. So he could not get scared, and he could, confront them in a very friendly way. So as we were waiting, kaise jayenge under, that time it was a building where the stairs, and then you had to go into that building. It's called G3 building those days. So he went, the head monkey was sitting, babies were there, big monkeys. Maybe about 50 of them were there. So they're also there, you can make out the leader. So he went to the big leader and said something fairly close to its ears. And that monkey, pura chati, like all these people today, these film stars show their muscles. Aisa kiya. Then again he went and murmured something. And the monkey started crying, weeping. Baap re, tu rula diya bhi. Then I was just watching, then he again went and murmured something. The head monkey gave a big signal, a shriek, all the monkeys went away. So we could enter. So then we asked him, before we started our work, "Arey yaar, tum kya bola?" He said, "Pehle to main bataya ki arey hum to L&T mein hai yaar. हम ये से बड़े बड़े इमारतें बनाते हैं, प्रोजेक्ट बनाते हैं, ये करते हैं, वो करते हैं, इंडिया का शान है हम लोग." हाँ, इसलिए ऐसा किया. Then he said, "अभी क्या, वो उसको रुला दिया?" He said, "नहीं यार, मैं उसको बताया, देखो हम लोग 8 बजे आते हैं, 11 बजे जाते हैं, पूरा काम ही काम करते हैं, इधर ही ऑलमोस्ट होते हैं. We don't see our families." And we used to work 6 days a week. L&T didn't have 5-day week. So he felt sorry for us, so he started crying. Now he said, "Abhi tum kya bola yaar? You went and murmured something, वो भाग गया." अरे यार, मैंने सोचा इतना भी इमोशन हो गया, इतना शान हमारा. मैंने बोला, "अरे यार, do you want to work in L&T?"